If you've ever sat before an exam, a job interview, or a difficult conversation and written down the perfect outcome as if it's already happened, if you've scripted your future in past tense, feeling the relief of success before it occurs, then what I'm about to tell you will change everything you think you know about manifestation. You are not manifesting. You are not attracting outcomes through cosmic vibration. You are not aligning with the universe to deliver your desires. Jung would tell you, what you're doing is far more powerful than manifestation and far more dangerous if you don't understand what's actually happening in your psyche. I'm going to show you something I wrote years ago, the night before a presentation that terrified me. I sat down and wrote, "Thank you for the presentation going perfectly. My voice was steady. My ideas were clear. People asked questions that showed they understood. I felt confident and grounded throughout." I wrote it in past tense, as if it had already happened, and when I walked into that room the next day, it went exactly as I'd written. At the time, I thought I'd manifested it. I thought the universe had heard my desire and delivered. I dove deeper into law of attraction, into assumption, into scripting, and some things worked, others didn't, and I had no idea why. Then I discovered Jung's work on what he called active imagination and psychological rehearsal, and I realized I wasn't manifesting anything. I was doing something the human psyche has done for thousands of years, something that has nothing to do with cosmic forces and everything to do with how your unconscious mind prepares you for reality. What you call manifestation, Jung called integration. What you call assumption, Jung called psychological preparation. What you call scripting your future, Jung called regulating your nervous system and programming unconscious behavior. And here's why this distinction matters. When you think you're manifesting, you make yourself vulnerable to 3 devastating traps that Jung documented in patient after patient. Traps that turn a powerful psychological tool into a weapon you use against yourself. The first trap. You use it to avoid action, giving yourself the emotional relief without doing the work. The second trap. You manifest outcomes you don't actually want, then wonder why your psyche sabotages. The third trap. You blame yourself when it doesn't work, using manifestation as proof that you're broken, not positive enough, not worthy enough. Jung saw these patterns destroy people, smart people, spiritual people, people who discovered a technique that actually works, then weaponized it into self-torture because they misunderstood what they were doing. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you what's really happening when you write your future as past, the actual neuroscience and psychology behind why this technique works, the 3 things your conscious mind doesn't realize you're doing, and most importantly, the shadow side of this practice that no manifestation guru will ever warn you about. Because the technique is real, the power is real, but it's not magic, it's psychology. And once you understand the difference, you become truly powerful, not because you can manifest anything, but because you can prepare yourself psychologically for anything. Let me tell you what Jung discovered about the human psyche that explains why writing your future as past actually works. When you sit down the night before an exam and write, "Thank you for the exam going perfectly. I remembered everything I studied. My mind was clear and calm. I answered confidently." 3 things happen in your nervous system that have nothing to do with the universe and everything to do with your brain. First, you are regulating your nervous system through what neuroscience now calls prospective memory rehearsal. Here's what most people don't understand about anxiety. When your brain perceives a future threat, it activates your amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for fear response. Once activated, your amygdala literally blocks access to your prefrontal cortex, where memory retrieval and clear thinking happen. This is why you blank during exams even though you studied. This is why you fumble your words in interviews even though you know your material. Your brain is in survival mode, not performance mode. When you write your future in past tense, when you sit in the feeling of "it already went well," you're sending a signal to your amygdala. The threat is over. We survived. We can relax now. Your body doesn't know the difference between imagined relief and actual relief, so your stress hormones drop. Your heart rate regulates. Your prefrontal cortex comes back online. You're not manifesting calm. You're creating it biochemically through visualization. Jung understood this long before neuroscience proved it. He called it using imagination to integrate dissociated parts of the psyche. What he meant: when you're anxious, your capable self gets split off, buried under fear. This practice brings that capable part back online. Second, you are programming unconscious behavior. Here's something Jung discovered that manifestation culture completely misses. When you vividly imagine a scenario, your unconscious mind begins preparing for it in ways your conscious mind never registers. You write, "I answered the interview questions clearly and confidently." Your unconscious hears this and begins subtle preparation. That night, your dreams might process interview scenarios. The next morning, you unconsciously choose clothes that make you feel more authoritative. Walking into the building, your posture shifts slightly. During the interview, micro-expressions of confidence appear on your face that you don't consciously control. None of this is magic. It's your unconscious mind doing what it's designed to do: prepare you for anticipated futures. Jung called this the prospective function of dreams and imagination, your psyche's natural ability to rehearse upcoming challenges. You're not manifesting a new reality. You're activating latent capacities that already exist within you. Athletes have used this for decades. They call it visualization. Surgeons use it before complex operations. Military uses it in training. It's not manifestation, it's psychological preparation that changes how you show up. Third, you are creating what Jung called psychological coherence. When you're anxious about the future, your psyche is fragmented. Part of you wants to succeed. Part of you expects to fail. Part of you is confident. Part of you is terrified. These fragments fight each other, creating internal chaos. When you write, "The presentation went perfectly," you're not just imagining success. You're unifying these fragments around a single narrative. You're telling all parts of yourself, "We're going with this version." Jung believed that psychological wholeness, what he called individuation, requires integrating these split-off parts. This practice is integration work disguised as manifestation. You're not attracting cosmic forces, you're aligning internal forces. This is why it feels magical when it works, because suddenly you show up as a unified self, confident, capable, clear, instead of the fragmented, anxious version you usually bring to high-stakes situations. The power isn't in the universe responding to your vibration. The power is in your psyche responding to your intention. Now here's what makes this both powerful and dangerous. This technique works whether you understand it or not. But when you misunderstand it, when you think it's manifestation rather than preparation, you set yourself up for 3 psychological traps that Jung documented over and over. And these traps don't just waste your time. They actively harm your psyche in ways that can take years to undo. Trap 1. Using imagination as substitute for action. The first trap Jung identified is the most seductive. You write the perfect outcome, feel the emotional relief, and then stop preparing. This is what he called succumbing to the fantasy function, using imagination not to prepare for reality, but to escape it. Here's how it happens. You're anxious about tomorrow's exam. So you sit down and write, "Thank you for the exam going perfectly. Every answer flowed through my pen. I felt confident and calm." As you write this, you feel relief. Your anxiety drops. Your body relaxes. You feel the satisfaction of success without having actually succeeded. And then you stop studying because your brain already got the reward, the dopamine hit of imagined success. Why keep studying when you already feel like you've won? Jung saw this pattern destroy countless patients. They would learn psychological techniques that actually worked, then use them to avoid the very challenges the techniques were meant to prepare them for. One woman came to Jung terrified of a job interview. He taught her active imagination, to visualize the interview going well, to rehearse her answers, to create psychological coherence. She did the exercise beautifully, wrote pages about the perfect interview, felt calm, confident, prepared. Then she cancelled the interview. When Jung asked why, she said, "I already feel like I have the job. I don't want to risk ruining that feeling with reality." She'd used psychological preparation as a substitute for actual action. She'd given herself the emotional payoff without taking the risk. Jung wrote in his notes, "She has discovered that imagination can produce the feelings she craves without demanding she face the actual challenge. She will likely spend her life in fantasy, experiencing nothing real." This is the dark side of manifestation culture that no one talks about. When you believe the universe will deliver, you can justify not delivering yourself. You write, "I got the promotion," and feel satisfied enough that you stop doing the work that would actually earn it. You script, "My relationship is perfect," and feel calm enough that you avoid the difficult conversations that would make it actually better. You assume, "I'm financially abundant," and feel relieved enough that you don't take concrete steps towards stability. The technique gives you emotional relief, but relief without action is just comfortable delusion. Jung's warning: the psyche seeks wholeness, not comfort. When you use imagination to create comfort without growth, you betray the soul's deepest purpose. How do you know if you're in this trap? Ask yourself, after I write my desired outcome, do I take more action or less? If writing calms you enough to prepare effectively, you're using it correctly. If writing calms you enough to stop preparing, you're in the trap. Trap 2. Manifesting outcomes your soul doesn't want. The second trap is even more insidious because it looks like manifestation failure when it's actually manifestation protection. Jung discovered something that shattered his early assumptions about the psyche. Your conscious ego doesn't always know what you actually need, and when you try to manifest something your deeper self knows is wrong for you, your psyche will sabotage it, not because you're broken, because you're being protected. Here's how this plays out. You write, "I got the promotion to senior manager. I'm successful, respected, making more money." You do the practice, you feel the feelings, you take action, and somehow it doesn't happen. You get passed over, or you get it and immediately feel miserable, or circumstances conspire against you in ways that feel almost deliberate. And then you conclude, "Manifestation doesn't work for me. I must not believe hard enough. My vibration must be wrong." But Jung would ask a different question. Does your soul actually want this promotion? Or does your ego want it because you think you should? He worked with a man who spent 2 years trying to manifest a partnership in a prestigious law firm, used every technique, wrote it in past tense, felt the feelings, took massive action. Nothing worked. In therapy, Jung helped him access a dream where he saw himself in a partner's office, suffocating, gasping for air, surrounded by walls closing in. His unconscious knew what his ego refused to admit. That partnership would destroy him. It represented everything his soul was trying to move away from: prestige over authenticity, money over meaning, his father's dreams over his own. His failure to manifest wasn't failure at all. It was his psyche protecting him from manifesting the wrong life. Jung wrote, "The greatest danger is not that manifestation doesn't work. It's that it does, and you successfully create a life your soul never wanted." This is why Jung insisted on shadow work before any kind of goal setting or visualization. You have to know what you actually want, not what you think you should want, not what would make others proud, not what would prove you're worthy. Because if you manifest from your wounds, you'll create a life that looks impressive but feels empty. If you manifest from your conditioning, you'll create a life that satisfies everyone except yourself. If you manifest from your unintegrated shadow, you'll create a life that becomes your prison. The technique works, but it will give you exactly what you ask for, even when what you're asking for is the wrong thing. How do you know if you're in this trap? Ask yourself, am I writing what I actually want or what I think I should want? If you feel genuine excitement when you imagine the outcome, deep, bodily yes, you're aligned. If you feel should, obligation, or this will prove I'm enough, your soul is trying to tell you no. Trap 3. Using manifestation to gaslight yourself. The third trap is the most psychologically damaging. You write the perfect outcome, it doesn't happen, and you turn the failure into proof that you're fundamentally broken. Jung called this spiritual masochism, using spiritual practices to confirm your worst beliefs about yourself. Here's the pattern. You script your ideal future, you feel the feelings, you assume it into existence, and then reality doesn't cooperate. Manifestation culture tells you, you didn't believe hard enough. Your vibration was too low. You manifested the negative outcome through your doubt. So now, on top of dealing with actual disappointment, you're dealing with the belief that you caused it, that your thoughts created your suffering, that if only you'd been more positive, more believing, more aligned, it would have worked. Jung saw this destroy people's relationship with reality. One woman came to him after years in manifestation communities. She'd tried to manifest a relationship. When it didn't happen, she was told, "You're blocking it with your fear of intimacy." She tried to manifest financial abundance. When money got tighter, she was told, "You're vibrating at scarcity frequency." She tried to manifest healing from chronic illness. When symptoms persisted, she was told, "You're holding on to sickness for secondary gain." She sat in Jung's office convinced that every difficulty in her life was her fault because she couldn't manifest it away. Jung was blunt with her. "You have taken a psychological tool for preparation and turned it into a weapon for self-punishment. You are using manifestation to prove what you've always secretly believed, that you're not good enough. This is spiritual bypassing at its most dangerous. You use manifestation to avoid facing the reality that life includes suffering that isn't your fault, that bad things happen to good people, that you can do everything right and still lose. Manifestation culture can't tolerate this truth, so it creates an internal locus of control so extreme that you become responsible for everything, even things genuinely outside your control. You get sick. You manifested it through negative thinking. You lose your job in layoffs. You attracted that scarcity. Someone you love dies. You weren't vibrationally aligned. This isn't empowerment. It's a different kind of prison. One where you're simultaneously all-powerful, you create everything, and completely helpless. You can't stop creating the wrong things. Jung insisted, reality includes randomness, tragedy, and suffering that has nothing to do with your thoughts. Your task is not to control reality through manifestation. It's to become psychologically whole enough to face whatever reality brings. How do you know if you're in this trap? Ask yourself, when manifestation doesn't work, do I examine what I might learn, or do I conclude I'm broken? If failure leads to curiosity, you're using it wisely. If failure leads to self-punishment, you're in the trap. So here's how to use this practice the way Jung intended, as psychological preparation that actually serves you, not magical thinking that betrays you. Step 1. Write the outcome, but anchor it in action. Don't write, "Thank you, universe, for the perfect job. It manifested effortlessly." Instead write, "The interview went well because I prepared thoroughly. I answered the competency questions with specific examples. I researched the company's values and connected them to my experience. I managed my nervousness through breathing." See the difference? One attributes success to cosmic forces. The other attributes success to your preparation and skill. Jung insisted, put agency in your hands, not the universe's hands. When you write your desired outcome, include what you did to prepare, how you managed challenges, what skills you accessed, how you showed up. This keeps you focused on what you can control, your preparation, your regulation, your capability. instead of what you can't control, which is whether the universe delivers. Step 2. Include obstacles. You overcame. Don't write. Everything went perfectly. No problems at all. Instead, write, I felt nervous walking in, but I used the grounding technique I practiced. I blanked on the third question, but stayed calm and asked for clarification. I noticed my voice shaking at first, but it steadied as I got into my flow. This is crucial, because real life includes obstacles. If you only rehearse perfection, you're not preparing for reality. You're setting yourself up for panic the moment something goes wrong. Jung called this integrating the shadow of the desired outcome. Every success includes difficulty. When you rehearse navigating difficulties, you build psychological resilience. You're not manifesting a reality where nothing goes wrong. You're preparing yourself to handle things when they do. Step 3. After writing, ask, what action does this require? This is the critical step that separates psychological preparation from spiritual bypass. You've written your desired outcome. You've felt the feelings. Now ask, what must I do today to make this more likely? If you wrote, the exam went well, what do you need to study today? If you wrote, the presentation was clear and confident, what section needs more practice? If you wrote, I set a boundary calmly, what exact words will you use? The practice should lead to action, not replace it. Jung's rule. Imagination without subsequent action is masturbation. It feels good in the moment, but produces nothing. Every time you do this exercise, end with one concrete action you'll take within 24 hours. Step 4. Distinguish soul-aligned goals from ego goals. Before you write anything, ask yourself, is this what I actually want, or what I think I should want? Jung's diagnostic question, if no one would ever know about this outcome, if it couldn't impress anyone, prove anything to anyone, make anyone proud, would I still want it? If yes, write it. Your soul is speaking. If no, examine whose voice you're actually hearing. Your parents? Society's? Your wounded ego trying to prove its worth? Don't manifest from your wounds. Don't manifest from conditioning. Don't manifest from the parts of yourself that believe you're not enough. Do the shadow work first. Understand what you're actually longing for beneath the surface goal, because you might think you want the promotion, when what you actually want is to feel valued. You might think you want the relationship, when what you actually want is to feel worthy of love. You might think you want financial abundance, when what you actually want is to feel safe. Get to the root, then write from there. Step 5. When it doesn't work, get curious. Don't get cruel. This is the most important step. You wrote the perfect outcome. You felt the feelings. You took the action. And it didn't happen. Manifestation culture says, you didn't believe hard enough. Jung says, what is reality trying to teach you? Maybe the outcome you wrote wasn't actually aligned with your soul's direction. Maybe there's a better path opening that you can't see yet. Maybe you need more skills before you're ready. Maybe the timing isn't right. Or maybe, and this is crucial, sometimes life includes loss that has nothing to do with your thoughts or vibrations. Sometimes bad things happen. Sometimes you do everything right and still lose. That's not manifestation failure. That's being human. Jung insisted, the goal of psychology is not to control reality. It's to become whole enough to face reality, whatever it brings. So when things don't go as you wrote, ask, what can I learn from this experience? What might this be protecting me from? What new direction is opening? What capacity am I being called to develop? Use it as information, not evidence that you're broken. Step 6. Remember, you're preparing, not manifesting the fundamental reframe Jung would want you to make. You're not using cosmic forces to attract outcomes. You're using psychological tools to prepare your nervous system and unconscious mind to show up as capable. The power isn't in manifestation. The power is in integration. When you write your future as past, You're integrating dissociated confidence. You're regulating your nervous system. You're programming unconscious behavior. You're unifying fragmented parts of yourself. This is real power, power you can rely on, power that doesn't require cosmic cooperation. You become someone who can prepare psychologically for anything, who can regulate in high-stakes moments, who can access capability even under pressure. That's more powerful than manifestation, because it's actually real. Now here's the part no manifestation guru will ever tell you, but Jung would insist you hear. Sometimes you prepare perfectly and still fail. Sometimes you regulate your nervous system, integrate your fragments, program your unconscious, and the exam is still brutally hard. The interview panel still chooses someone else. The presentation still goes poorly through no fault of your own. This is where manifestation culture becomes dangerous, because it can't tolerate this truth. It needs to believe that if you do everything right, you get the outcome. But Jung understood something deeper. Life includes genuine randomness, tragedy, and loss. And the goal of psychological work is not to eliminate these things, it's to become whole enough to face them. He worked with a man who'd used every manifestation technique perfectly before a crucial business pitch. Visualized success, felt the feelings, prepared thoroughly, regulated his nervous system. The pitch went well. He did everything right. They went with a competitor anyway for reasons that had nothing to do with his performance. Manifestation culture told him, "You must have had limiting beliefs. You vibrated at the wrong frequency." Jung told him, "Sometimes you do everything right and still lose. This isn't a failure of your thoughts. This is the reality of living in a world you don't completely control. Your task now is to grieve the loss without blaming yourself for it." The man said, "So what's the point of all this psychological preparation if it can't guarantee outcomes?" Jung replied, "The point is not to guarantee outcomes. The point is to become someone who can show up fully capable regardless of outcomes, to access your best self, not because it ensures winning, but because that's who you want to be. The preparation isn't to control reality, it's to be psychologically present for whatever reality brings. This is the maturity manifestation culture lacks. Psychological preparation doesn't guarantee success. It guarantees that you show up as your most integrated self, and sometimes that self wins, sometimes it loses. But either way, you lived authentically instead of from fragmentation. That's the real power. Not controlling outcomes, controlling who you are regardless of outcomes. So now you're standing at a choice point that every person who discovers this technique eventually faces. You can keep using it as manifestation, believing the universe owes you outcomes, that cosmic forces will deliver, that positive thinking controls reality. Or you can use it as Jung intended, as psychological preparation that regulates your nervous system, integrates your fragments, and helps you show up capable. The first path feels more magical, more hopeful, more comfortable. The second path is more honest, more grounded, more real. The first path says, "Do this correctly and you'll get what you want." The second path says, "Do this correctly and you'll become who you're capable of being." What happens after that is partly you, partly chance, partly mystery. The first path makes you dependent on cosmic cooperation. The second path makes you psychologically sovereign. The first path turns failure into evidence you're broken. The second path turns failure into information for growth. Jung would ask you, which version of power do you actually want? The power to believe you control everything, even when you don't? Or the power to show up whole, prepared and capable, regardless of outcomes? Because here's what Jung discovered in decades of clinical work. The people who were happiest, most fulfilled, most psychologically healthy, weren't the ones who'd manifested everything they wanted. They were the ones who'd become whole enough to face reality, success and failure, joy and loss, triumph and tragedy, without fragmenting. They didn't need life to go perfectly because they'd built an internal foundation strong enough to handle life going imperfectly. They'd stopped trying to manifest reality and started working to integrate themselves. And paradoxically, this made them more capable of influencing outcomes, not through cosmic forces, but through psychological coherence. So the choice is yours. Keep believing in manifestation if it serves you, but understand what you're actually doing. You're not attracting cosmic forces. You're preparing your psyche. And when you understand that, when you use this practice as preparation instead of magic, you become truly powerful. Not because you can manifest anything, because you can face anything. The technique works. I'm not telling you to stop, but understand what you're actually doing. You're not manifesting. You're regulating your nervous system. You're integrating dissociated capability. You're programming unconscious behavior. You're rehearsing psychological coherence. And that's more powerful than manifestation, because it's real. It's yours. It doesn't depend on cosmic forces aligning. It depends on you becoming psychologically whole. I still write my future in past tense before important events, but I don't write, "Thank you, universe, for delivering this outcome." I write, "I showed up prepared, regulated and capable. I accessed my confidence. I managed my anxiety. I trusted my preparation. Whatever happened, I was psychologically present." That's the difference. I'm not trying to control the outcome. I'm preparing to be my most integrated self regardless of outcome. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I fail. But I'm no longer using the outcome as evidence of my worth or my thoughts' power. I'm using the practice to become someone who can show up whole. And that person is more capable of influencing outcomes than the fragmented, anxious version of me ever was. Not through magic, through psychology. Jung spent his entire career teaching one fundamental truth. The goal is not to manifest the perfect life. The goal is to become psychologically whole enough to live whatever life you have authentically. That wholeness doesn't guarantee success, but it guarantees you won't be destroyed by failure. It doesn't eliminate suffering, but it gives you the internal resources to face suffering without fragmenting. It doesn't make you all-powerful, but it makes you genuinely powerful in the ways that actually matter. So write your future, but write it as preparation, not magic, as integration, not manifestation, as rehearsal for showing up whole, not guarantee of getting what you want. You're more powerful than manifestation culture tells you, but not because you can attract anything, because you can prepare yourself psychologically for anything, and that power, the power of integration, of regulation, of showing up whole, that's real, that's yours. That can't be taken from you by circumstances, outcomes, or a universe that doesn't cooperate. Comment below. Have you used this technique? Did you think it was manifestation, or did you understand it as psychological preparation? And if you've been using it as manifestation, are you ready to reframe it as something more powerful? If you want to keep exploring Jung's psychological truth behind spiritual concepts that everyone gets wrong, subscribe. Because manifestation is just the beginning. There's shadow work that people think makes them good that actually makes them judgmental. There's setting boundaries that people think is empowerment that actually makes them the narcissist they're trying to escape. Jung's work isn't about being spiritual. It's about being psychologically honest. And honest psychology is more powerful than any manifestation technique will ever be. You're not manifesting. You're integrating. And integration is where real transformation lives.